Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Willoughby, and I am the Dean of the Edwards School of Business at the University of Saskatchewan. And I have the pleasure of welcoming you to today's Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series and Get a Bigger Wagon competition. As we gather here this afternoon, we acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 6 territory here in the city of Saskatoon. This is also Western Region 2A of Métis Nation, Saskatchewan. As part of that acknowledgement of the land that we share, I wanted to acknowledge the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place as the caretakers, the original caretakers of this territory, and myself as someone who is born and raised in Saskatchewan. I want to acknowledge individuals who cherish this land. So my ancestors who came from the Ukraine, who came from Norway and the British Isles could actually find places that they could also live on the land as well. I acknowledge what we can do as a community to enable truth and foster reconciliation that will help all of us in society. I'm grateful that you can be here with us on this afternoon. I warmly welcome you today to this event. As I understand it, it's now minus 23 Celsius, so by early tomorrow morning we'll be in shirt sleeves and shorts in this wonderful January time of the year. Welcome, folks, to the 17th annual Gordon and Maureen Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series, an absolutely tremendous annual event that we have in our college. A special welcome to the many young people, future Edwards School of Business students I see in the audience today. Thank you for being here with us, your future entrepreneurs, for bringing family members with you today. As I wear this bracelet to many events, it's a recognition of what young entrepreneurs can do to enable lasting memories with me. It's said that entrepreneurs find solutions to problems. They turn a challenge into an opportunity. Such is the nearly 2-decade history of the Gordon and Maureen Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing Gordon and Maureen, who are great friends of the Edwards School of Business. Both are alumni of the University of Saskatchewan. Gord graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce degree after wonderfully circumventing the great topic of calculus. Maureen graduated from the College of Education, but it was their vision 17 years ago in 2007 that launched the Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series event. Besides the Haddocks, I also wanted to pay a shout out to some other individuals who are joining us today. We have Sheila and Steve Erickson from the Roadways Literacy Academy. Thank you, Steve and Sheila, for joining us. Janet Hart, I don't know if you are here in the audience today, but she is a tremendous contributor to our college in terms of her work with the Saskatoon Industrial Education Council. We have previous Get a Bigger Wagon entrants and winners, some of whom are now enrolled in university. The competition has been going along that long. Will Shevkenik, are you here with us today? If you're here, raise your hand. Will, thank you for joining us here today. Will, by the way, is now participating in international debate competitions. He's going, in fact, in the next 2 months to some university named Harvard, apparently to participate in international competitions. We have Maya Mackey. Maya is here today, has now spoiler alert, the very first ever 2-time winner in the Get a Bigger Wagon competition. To me, this is tremendous achievements that recognize the legacy of success of this annual competition. Every year since 2007, we have had this event. You might know this past, and by the way, Cindy Lowe, pleasure to have you with us. Last year's Haddock Entrepreneurial Speaker Series participant who is a tremendous ambassador for financial literacy in the classroom. Those of you who follow sports like I do know this past week in Buffalo, New York, cold weather postponed an NFL playoff game. Cold weather has never postponed this event. In 2020, the COVID pandemic canceled the Junos and an entire Canadian Football League season, but COVID never canceled this event. Thank you, Gordon and Maureen. I've said it often, I'll say it again. Your legacy is as much inspirational as it is aspirational. Thank you for enabling success for current and future entrepreneurs in our community, in our region, and in our world. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you Gordon Haddock. Gordon.
Thanks, boss. Can we do a little test on my mic? Good to go, T? Thank you very much. Just looking around the crowd, I've noticed one face that has been here for years and that's Professor Lee Swanson. Apparently, he said an old football injury hurt his knee, but I think it was a classic Shawtees dance competition, and he made a terrific move and blew his knee out. But I know he's watching us because we're being live streamed. So, hello, Lee, wherever you are. At this time, too, if I could ask everybody to turn their phones off, that would be wonderful, because nothing more exciting than a phone at the inappropriate time ringing. Yeah, mine is off. I'm going to do something a little different just before we get into introducing our guest speaker, because it's something we haven't brought up for years. And we give our guest speaker an original painting, which you'll see over here. And these paintings that we give come from our Get a Bigger Wagon books, which my wife has written a couple books about my misspent youth growing up in the 50s in Saskatchewan. And the Saskatoon artist that does it is Denise Klett. And when you drive up the Broadway Bridge, you would see that big mural at the top of the Broadway Bridge. That's Denise's work. But she just became the first Canadian to become a licensed Disney artist. So she's, excuse me, from Saskatoon. So if you want to see some really neat art about fairies and pirates and all that type of thing, just go to deniseklett.com. She's quite an amazing artist. So the Dean mentioned the weather. I don't know if we're the trigger for cold weather, but I know we're probably the only place that craves and prays for minus 25 so that we can get out and do our normal business. And that's kind of a unique feature. And so it's wonderful to see everybody here despite the weather. Now, taking over a family business and making it grow is fun, but it's also filled with challenges. You're subject to comparison with the founder, and the existing workforce may be resistant to change. Our guest speaker did it the right way. He was not parachuted into the top spot at Standard Machine, but started from the ground up and in the machine shop and worked his way up to the role of general manager. He earned his stripes and grew the family-owned business enterprise from 70 to 150 employees and expanded it to the United States with the acquisition of Copper State Machine in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I think that's rather a coincidence that you would buy a machine shop in Arizona and spend some time looking after that in the winter, but that's maybe just coincidence. As owner from 2000 to 2013, he implemented a strategic plan centered around lean manufacturing and enterprise resource planning systems to better manage key parts of the operations. And under his leadership, Standard Machine experienced remarkable sales growth and securing its position in the global gearing industry. Now, success and leadership in an industry always attracts other companies. And in May of 2013, Standard Machine was sold to Timken, an industrial technology firm. Post the sale, Greg transitioned into other areas, including the development and investment in industrial and commercial properties, supporting startups through angel investing, offering financial advice. And for all those guys, and maybe a few of the ladies who dream of a man cave or lady cave, he is the CEO of Autobox Garage Interiors. So if you ever want to see a neat store, go over to it on Faithful, and they have more attachments to hook and store and whatever in that, and it's a great spot. Now, his achievements have been recognized with numerous awards, including the Saskatchewan Business Excellence Award and being a finalist in the Best Managed Companies in Canada, which is a real honor. Finally, to fill in any spare time he has left, Greg is involved in numerous sports and family pursuits with his wife Patty and their 4 children. And one of his daughters, Tate, has the entrepreneurial bug, and you would see her business every summer as the Pedal Pub Saskatoon, with they drive around the city and you provide the pedal power and have a small cocktail perhaps along the way. So it's running in the family. With that, ladies and gentlemen, our 17th Haddock Entrepreneurial speaker, Greg Porter.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you very much. I'll just let you know you're good? Everybody can hear me? When I ended up buying the business down in Phoenix, it was 115 degrees Fahrenheit that day, and it was incredibly hot. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming out during these tough conditions today. I want to thank Megan Cantwell for her persistence in having me agree to be a speaker. I don't mind just speaking, but with Megan, she was on me like I had to do this, so I don't mind doing it. I'd like to thank Carly for organizing the event and also being very persistent in getting my information. Thanks to Dean Keith Willoughby for being a generous host, and of course to the Haddocks for sponsoring this event. Events like this help you as students as well as alumni to learn from experiences and mistakes that us as speakers make that have already had to pay a tuition fee, albeit not to this university. Today I want to start off sharing some of my background in the family gear business. My parents started, which was the main school of my learning. I hope to leave you with some of my experiences from that business, as well as other ventures that hopefully you can take away from my presentation today and apply to your business life. And if you can't, that is fine too, because you get to know me better as a person than rather than just a name. So my name is Greg Porter, and I was proud to be an SOB growing up. Sorry for the little guys that are here, but the SOB is... I was a son of the boss. I started out being a little SOB at 2 years of age when in 1967, my dad started a one-man, one-machine shop that serviced the Allen Potash mine. One that he had worked at previously as the lead machinist, helping to build and repair tooling and parts for the sinking of the shafts. My dad was extremely knowledgeable and inventive in machining and welding. He knew what he was doing, and he was very, very good at it. He persisted until he got it right, and he was one who needed to know how to do it himself, so he taught himself many different aspects of manufacturing. I don't think my dad ever thought of himself as an entrepreneur. I think he saw himself as somebody who could tackle a machining problem or build an improved part or make it cheaper and faster than the OEM, that's the original equipment manufacturer, and provide a solution for the customer. After all, that is what business is all about, being able to provide a solution to somebody's want or desire at the best value. The business my dad started in 1967 as a one-man, one-machine shop would turn into a very successful machining and gear manufacturing business known as Standard Machine, located here in Saskatoon. My mom joined the company shortly after start looking after the administrative duties, and I would join the company at 5 years of age as its only non-paid employee, looking after cleaning out the Coke machine and opening up the bottle caps for a free Coke or try again opportunity. Now I know I didn't know that somebody would be so young here, so some of you don't understand that. But so most of you are probably too young to know that the caps in the Coke bottles usually actually had a liner inside that you would take your little nail and you pull them out, and they'd have either a cash value, a free Coke, or a try again message, usually a try again message. Little did I know then that the try again message was something that entrepreneurs are willing to do until they get the winning bottle cap. My path to the machine shop, engineering, and business world started early in life. From the time I was 5 years old, I always wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to build things from steel using lathes and milling machines and welding equipment. I always needed to know how things were being built, and maybe someday I would have my own machine shop that I could build whatever I wanted. I worked at the shop on weekends in public school, mainly cleaning the floors and organizing the steel scraps in the yard. I was taught how to drive a forklift at 12 years of age. So first of all, I could dump the steel bins, but then my dad also had a collection of old cars that he hadn't fixed up yet. So just to understand is I was actually lifting the cars up and down from a mezzanine to the floor, and I didn't drop them. So by never having to drop them, I was eventually awarded with the opportunity to learn how to start milling shear pins on a horizontal milling machine that were used in the underground boring machines. All this fun working in a machine shop and earning a little bit of money, spending money, made me want to even more to own a machine shop. In grade 8, I decided to attend Mount Royal Collegiate, which is a way different collegiate back in 1979 than it is nowadays, from my high school years, leaving all my friends who attend City Park Collegiate. Mount Royal had a machine shop, they had a welding class, and they also had a soccer team, which was one of my passions. I worked a lot of weekends at the shop while going to high school as well. I also had a second job as a gas dispensing engineer. At Turbo, they call that a gas jockey. At the family business, I was now running a lathe in the mill, but what was really interesting to me was learning how to cut gears in the gear machines my dad had recently purchased and learning the metallurgy of the heat treating facility that my dad was now venturing into. After graduating from Mount Royal and doing well at machining and welding classes, I worked part-time for my parents in the family business while attending the U of S and playing soccer for the Huskies. I gained knowledge of each machine and the new CNC machines, which are computer numerical control machines, so that I would have a general understanding of every machine in the business. After 2 years at university, I worked my way from the production floor and then became a shop foreman by default at a very young age, especially in this type of business, one which is full of hard-working, hard-playing, and some hard-drinking individuals who taught me some life lessons that were always not easy, especially being the SOB that I was. It was during these years that I learned a lot about managing people and getting work done through people and systems. I had to gain the respect of our employees, most of them who knew a lot more about machining than I did. For a short period of time, I was able to convince my parents that we needed a computer program to help manage our work on the shop floor, which would also help out our job costing. I did my research and visited another gear shop in Vancouver who had a very similar system and determined this was the system that we needed to implement. The change in our systems was something my parents and staff had a hard time with, but I persevered through the reluctance and pushback by them to put in a system that is being upgraded. This system has now been upgraded and revised numerous times, and it's still a standard machine, but still the basis of an ERP system. I felt I also gained a lot of respect from most employees by putting a lot of hours to get ahead of the day-to-day tasks. If people see you are committed to doing a job successfully, they will follow you as they also want to be part of that same success. I regularly work 70-hour work weeks, working every day of the week, starting quite early and staying late. It was also important for me to gain respect from the employees by asking them lots of questions to get their view on how we should tackle a new job or process. The employees appreciated being involved in the decision-making process, and I had certain guys that I leaned on to get valuable input who saw me trying hard to be a shop foreman. I don't only ask guys questions about the work, I asked them questions about the workplace and what they wanted to see improved. Although it was a very simple thing, our bathrooms stunk. So what I ended up doing was just painting the bathrooms and organizing them a lot better, and the guys really appreciated that I was actually listening to them and doing something about it. The guys could see that I was trying to organize the shop floor so I could tell where jobs were at easier, and it made for a lot safer work environment. I had the respect of most of our employees, most of the employees. As I mentioned before, it was a hard group of guys, hard group of times too. Some of the ones who were loyal to the previous foreman were guys who drank excessively after work on Fridays. Although this was a problem, it was a problem that was swept under the carpet in those days, and I had very little say in fixing it until later. By the time I was in my late 20s, my parents asked me numerous times if I wanted to buy the business from them and if this was something I really wanted to do. I didn't have to worry about my sisters being involved, as they had both moved to Vancouver to pursue their own careers, but I did hear my parents say they wanted to make sure my sisters were treated fairly also. When I was 33 years old, my parents and I were negotiating a deal for me to become an owner. If you've ever tried to negotiate with your mom and dad on buying their dream, there is no negotiating. Here's the price, and Greg, you will pay that price as out of the profits. Whatever the price, to be honest with you, I was thrilled as my dreams were coming to fruition. I could finally see me becoming my own boss. For all of you who have worked in a family business and been part of the challenges, not only with employees, customers, suppliers, banks, the most difficult challenges I found were dealing with the emotions of a family business. Everything that we talked about was shop talk. the lunch, the supper conversations were about business. I loved it, but to be honest, it became my obsession. My mom and dad, maybe not so much. As my parents inched towards selling the business to me, my plans were to build a very successful gear manufacturing company that would sell into the US. But just after we signed the deal to sell the shares to me, my dad went and bought the assets of another large gear company that had gone into bankruptcy. Letting go was not in my dad's immediate plans, and now my ownership was put on the back burner as we had to move the assets of the oldest and largest gear company in Canada back to Saskatoon from Toronto, which actually was the easy part, was the move. Getting the name Hamilton Gear and the gearboxes and gearing back into the market quickly before competitors took over the space was just one of the challenges. As an aside, Hamilton Gear was started in 1911, and we ended up buying this company in 1994. So the amount of stuff that was in downtown Toronto was amazing. In fact, I'll talk about it here a bit too. I was tasked with organizing moving the parts back to Saskatoon from Toronto. 27 semis full of cutters, minus 40 degrees temperature, full of patterns, drawings, inventory, and even the Hamilton Gear sign were moved in the dead of winter back to our newly acquired second location now on Wentz Avenue. To meet the demand of our new customers now included Ford Canada, GM Canada, the US military, and hundreds of customers we had to add on staff. Our staff doubled in 6 months from 35 to 70 staff. The systems that we had put in place were now being overwhelmed with growth. The basic ERP software system that we had implemented was in need of a major upgrade, and that involved more people who knew more about accounting and purchasing. This extra burden and headaches were pushing my parents to question whether they really wanted to sell me the business, which made our talks even more tense as a family. Changes to our systems were needed, and if we didn't change things, we were only going to get more intense within our company and our family. One big addition to our system was we needed to add a human resource system to handle our growth and our drinking problems, our problems. Putting in the system was a major amount of work. These were changes we didn't need at the time, I was told by my parents, but I persisted and had the support of a few managers, so my parents and a lot of the staff reluctantly agreed to implement our HR program. This is where I said that we had the alcoholics in our business, and we probably had 3 guys that were hard drinkers, but they were very, very, very good machinists. And it's hard to let those type of prima donnas go, but we had to stick with our values and our objectives, and we actually ended up letting the 3 guys go, or they quit because they just couldn't handle the new rules that I was pushing on them. We were not only being recognized now with a SABEX award and an ABEX award for job growth and new venture, the unions thought they should probably get on the action too. The period of time from 1994 to 1999 was one of the most difficult times we had not only as business, but as a family. I questioned my decision whether I really wanted to own this business. I now had a wife and I had a young family, and they needed my attention also. My parents struggled too on what was fair for my 2 younger sisters if Greg had the business. Yet I looked at it, I'm buying the business from you guys. Whatever you do with my sisters, it doesn't have to be fair. I'm the one that's buying the business. Many intense discussions ensued on what the direction of the company should be in the future. My parents' plans weren't the same as mine. Finally, my parents and I redid our deal in 1999, and very shortly after, my dad came to my office and told me that him and Mom were moving to Sydney, BC to retire. My feelings were extremely mixed at the time. I finally had the control of the company I dreamed of owning as a young child, but my parents were not only backing away from the company, they were actually leaving for BC. The company was now mine, and I could finally move forward with my plans. But the odds of me succeeding in a second-generation business is 30%. But that wasn't what was stopping me from my dream. I built a new building, which is existing right now on 60th and Miller, using lean manufacturing concepts and techniques that I had gained from my international travels and education to Germany, China, and Italy. The only thing stopping me right now to get my dream was me. So one of my lessons here I want to talk about was growing up in the school of family business, you learn to manage people from your parents. You learn the systems your parents put in place because they work for them. You also learn that for change to be successful, you must manage it properly, not mandate it on employees. Although my management style was not perfect, it was working, I thought, until I noticed we began to have some turnover in a very highly competitive market that saw the mining companies struggling for employees. Even by moving our labor rates up significantly, I thought we could still keep some of the employees who were contemplating changing jobs. These guys were loyal to me, I thought. I guess others saw my stress and frustration too, and why wouldn't they, since I showed it on the floor with actions and words that were not professional, and I was involving myself in people's jobs who were supposed to be managing. Luckily for me and the company, my CFO brought in a contact of his to meet me. This gentleman was a very successful business coach from Montreal, originally from Prince Albert, who helped second-generation family businesses. 90% of small businesses are family-owned, so there is a lot of opportunity for a business coach. But with over 70% of family businesses failing in second generation, he had a tough job ahead of him, especially working with me. But I recognized I needed to be a better person and wanted to change the person I was to become a better manager and leader. It was time for this little former SOB to grow up. When somebody is brought in to help improve you personally and professionally, you have to allow them to do their job. Part of my new business coach's job was to bring in my management team of 5 people and ask them 3 tough questions in front of me. Number 1, what is Greg doing well? Number 2, what is it about Greg as a manager that you don't like? And number 3, what can Greg do better to become a better manager? As you can imagine, sitting in front of me, the guy that signs your paycheck, and asking and answering these questions in front of me is a little bit tough. But I guaranteed all the employees their jobs after they pointed out my shortcomings. But I was also able to ask them the same questions of each of them. As you can imagine, these are not simple questions to answer in front of the guy who signed your check. But we had enough trust in each other and a passion to succeed in this business that we were all open and honest with each other. For all the husbands in here, I would very caution you guys on asking your wife question number 2, which is, what could she do better? After the session, action plans were put in place for me to become a better manager. I established my values as one of the first plans, and this helped me guide me in my journey. This transformation didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took a few years and some setbacks and challenges, but I was able to recover to be a successful manager and owner. One of the things I intuitively learned and saw was that growing up, my dad was involved in everything in the company. He was involved with hiring, firing, training, wage increases, sales, shop foreman, quoting. That's what entrepreneurs do. You name it, he did it. That was the same with me at the very start. All the responsibility was mine. All the authority was mine, and I held myself accountable for the success or failure of the company. This is what I saw in my dad, and that's what made him successful. So it's going to make me successful as I grow this company, right? Wrong. To grow, you need to let go. You need to allow your employees to grow to become better managers or technicians. But how do you do that systematically? You learn to trust them through their actions and not their words. I developed my own set of principles that allowed me to trust my staff to enact my vision for the company. That's what they told me they wanted for me to become a better manager and for me to become a better leader. It was my time to step away as a manager and now to become a leader that I was supposed to be. The principles became known to myself as my raw principles: responsibility, authority, and accountability. You have to give your people the responsibility to lead and manage their team and meet their targets and their KPIs. Those are key performance indicators. A big part of their job description is being responsible for the team's success, so let them do their jobs. Give them the authority to make decisions, whether they are hiring, training, the financial resources to spend within a budget or approved spending plan, and allow them to schedule. Keep them accountable by meeting with them one-on-one to see how their action plans are progressing, how the company's KPIs are being met, and what's working and what isn't, and what they plan on doing to meet their targets. After I changed my management style, the trust in our company became stronger, the communication became better, and I was getting buy-in on my vision of being an international gear manufacturing company. Our sales improved over 400% in 12 years. Our staffing was now up to 135 people in Canada, and I had a manufacturing facility with 15 staff, and a manufacturing repair facility in Phoenix with 15 staff. We are now doing business in South America as well as Europe, and we're ranked in the top 5 percentile for profit within our North American Gear Manufacturing Association. I contribute my success to my staff at Standard Machine, and the changes they helped me to make to become not only a better manager, but a better person, and the changes they made in themselves. Lesson number 2. My second lesson I want to share with you, you may find very contradictory to what I've always wanted in my life. The family business model, as I have mentioned, is a very difficult one. My story, albeit unique to myself, is not an unheard of story in family-owned businesses. It comes with its many challenges, and worse yet, it comes with its odds stacked against the next generation. As I previously mentioned, second-generation businesses succeed 30% of the time, but third-generation businesses only succeed 15% of the time. Who wants those odds stacked against you? So I took a different approach than most people after listening to a speech by Dr. Thomas Deans, who talked about his family business and his decision to sell to an outside investor rather than continue on in the family name. One of his reasons was that as a next-generation owner, you already have the bar set for you to not fail. If your sales are $10 million, or whether they're $100 million, or whether they're $100,000, when you take over, you need to increase that every year by a certain percentage to keep up with inflation and the added investment in equipment and in people. If you don't, you fail in your mind. If you have 20 staff and you need to increase to 50% to meet demand over the next 2 years and you don't, you may have failed. With today's changing priorities in lifestyle and free time, are we setting our kids up for failure? So when I was approached in 2010 to sell my business for the first time, I'd already made the decision that I did not want to create a family legacy by keeping the business in the family, but I wanted to create family wealth, to allow my kids the opportunities that would make them happy and successful. Other life circumstances, such as a divorce, also made me think what I really wanted for my 3 kids' future. So in 2012, I was approached again by 2 companies to buy my business. Anybody who wants to sell their business, I have a few lessons on that too, but that's at a different time. That is a very emotional event. I didn't have the heartache and I didn't have the inner conflict that my parents had with me of selling the business to somebody else. My decision was already made. After a successful sale in 2013 of my company to a large Fortune 500 company, Timken, I've been able to assist my kids financially and strategically to be their own entrepreneurs. All of my kids have graduated either from business school or from the U of S here, 2 from the Edwards School of Business and 1 from McEwen in Edmonton. 3 and 1 from the university. My son Chase has a successful golf apparel line called Player, which is actually started here at the Edwards School of Business. And my daughter Tate and her partners have the franchising rights in Saskatchewan to Pedal Pub, where they operate in downtown Saskatoon. My youngest daughter, Reese, who just finished her degree, has started her first big girl job, as she calls it, in Edmonton as a design consultant for a commercial kitchen company and may someday venture out on her own to follow her passion of design. My stepdaughter, Katie, who's my son-in-law's here, is also part owner of a beer company here in Saskatoon and also has her own clothing line called Unruly. So she too has the entrepreneurial spirit in here. I couldn't be prouder of all 4 of my kids. So I ask, and some of you are way too young here, is that when you get to a point in time in your life, you have to seriously consider, do you pass the business on to your kids or do you pass it on to create family wealth? My lesson number 3, stay in your lane. In 2014, I was lucky to spend 4 days with my hockey hero, Bobby Orr. You guys all know Bobby Orr, right? Even the young ones here? Do you know Bobby Orr? You. Bobby took our small group, actually after we attended the Bruins games, to a New England Patriots game, and we used the Boston Red Sox owners' suite tickets for the game. Just to clarify, Bobby got those tickets, not me. So, but in that suite, I was lucky enough to meet one of the Boston Red Sox owners, Henry McCants. He told me he was a 10% minority investor who had an investment firm after working with started an investment firm after working with the U.S. Department of Defense. He had raised money and invested $6.5 million into a little startup company called Facebook. His company exited Facebook after selling its shares for $1 billion. He told me being a minority investor in the Family Sports Group, who also owned the Liverpool Soccer Club at the time, got him a great seat at every game the Red Sox or Liverpool played, but when he ever made a suggestion as to who should be playing first base, they pretty much said to him, mind your own business and stay in your lane, in very nice terms. So after selling my business in 2013 and resigning my presidency role in Timken, Canada, I continued developing and investing in properties in Saskatoon, as well as the area, as also in Phoenix. I also ventured in financially assisting small startups in several different areas. The thrill of developing a property and collecting rent just wasn't the same as I had become used to at running Standard Machine. I needed something where I could apply my skills to management and vision and to market and sell a product that was engineered. That was my background. So in 2015, I ventured into an existing business venture with both feet in and cash in hand to help the owner build. I spent a year doing my due diligence, with numerous times asking myself, am I really doing the right thing? I had very little understanding at the beginning, of the engineered services being offered by this company, but the opportunities to scale the company were, in my accountant's mind and in my contact within the company, very, very large. So shortly after signing the PSA, the purchase sale agreement, I found out that a chance meeting with the minority owner of the Boston Red Sox was actually a lesson that I was going to learn myself. That being a minority partner meant you had very little say in what was going on, even if you were on the management team and had millions of dollars into the business. Without getting into too much detail, the business was moved into special credit by the bank shortly after I took over, shortly after I invested, and from there the next few years were pure hell for the owners and the staff of the company. I got into the wrong lane, and a head-on collision was in sight. When I analyzed my decision, I looked back on a number of red flags. My father asked me what I was doing getting involved with this company. My friends asked me the same thing. My acquaintances who knew me as a successful business person in the community asked me the same thing. My head even asked me the same thing. But I made a bad costly decision with my heart. I've always been good with going with my gut and my head, and I didn't listen to it. And just to back up, my CFO who helped bring in that business gentleman from Montreal was my CFO, and he also became the CFO of this mining company, and he's the one who actually asked me to come and get involved, and so that I could help out with strategy and planning. So unfortunately, my CFO friend has passed away. In the end, I spent a lot on tuition fee that I did not need to do. My lesson here, stay in your lane, the one you're really good at. If you want to venture outside of the lane, be prepared to spend a lot of time learning, a lot of money learning, and a lot of frustration with business partners. Not only should you know the product, but more importantly, know your business partners. I will never, ever get involved in an active business where I do not have control to make the final say on decisions. I will get involved in real estate deals that have clear sale clauses with one or two partners who are equal shareholders, but never an operating business. I have trusting real estate partners in Phoenix as well as here in Saskatoon, but there is earned trust and equal ownership within our partnerships. I've accepted the fact that I made a bad decision, but I also learned I will not let one bad decision define who I am. I moved on to another venture where we design and install polyaspartic flooring, cabinets, and provide storage solutions to organize and give your garage or business an organized and clean look. My latest venture is in 2010, I purchased Saskatoon Custom Garage Interiors, a small company with 8 staff, with the intent to grow the company. I wasn't sure how at the time I was going to grow it, so after looking at my options, I decided to franchise the business. Something totally new to me, getting out of my lane, I have to agree, but it was exciting for me and I had control of it. So after we rebranded the company to Autobox Garage Interiors, and a complete overhaul of our marketing program was introduced. This venture is quite different than Standard Machine. The target market is different to start off with. We deal with people who really care about their garages or their floors. We deal with the different demographics of people, and although I know what my customer profile looks like, I don't know what my customer looks like. In my previous business life at Standard Machine, I personally knew the project engineer, the VP, or the president of the company on a business level. I visited with them 1 or 2 times a year, or my sales staff did. But now I only know who to market to, and we might only see them once or twice while they own their own home. The one thing I do appreciate with our Autobox customers is that they are very appreciative of what we do and what we provide. It is so nice to see the looks on people's faces when they come into our showroom. We can show them what we do, and then when we do it, and the look on their face after we're done, they're just amazed. At Standard Machine, I had a lot of manufacturing process knowledge and product knowledge. At Autobox, I am still learning the chemistry now of our products. I don't install floors or cabinets myself because we have really good people that do that. I stay in my lane there. I am there to provide vision, strategy, and leadership because that is what I'm good at. The biggest benefit owning Autobox and now AGI franchising is I get to work with my daughter, Tate, as we begin our franchising journey across Canada with our newly created company called AGI Franchising. I just got home from Sweden on January the 9th, and January the 11th, we were into 5 days of training with our first franchise, which we signed up for Calgary. So we had 5 days of training, which we ended on Sunday, and we're very, very excited about our journey moving forward. But at some point, I will decide to sell these entities and hopefully build the family wealth and leave the legacy to somebody else, just not my family. So in wrapping up, I want to leave you with my 3 lessons again. The raw principles: responsibility, authority, and accountability. Consider creating family wealth rather than a family legacy. And number 3, with investment decisions, stay in your own lane. I also want to mention that as a former SOB, I will always be proud of my parents for the values, the lessons they taught me in life, but also the opportunities they provided me and my family. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and the cold weather today and from your family to be here today and allowing me to share some of the lessons I have learned as I went from gears to garages. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. We're not done yet. I think it's a great time now that we have, I know, students here in the Edwards School of Business who are joining us. We have aspiring entrepreneurs as well. You have family members who are here with their own aspiring entrepreneurs. It'd be a delightful opportunity, if you have a few minutes, Greg, to answer some questions that I know members of the audience may have. So this is your time. We do have microphone in the center. And if you want to come forward and ask a question, convey it to Greg and go from there.
Greg, you spoke about many trials and tribulations that you had throughout your career. I'm curious, what was your darkest hour before dawn?
In business life? There's a lot of them. Some of them is actually, when I built my new building on Miller Avenue, I spent quite a bit of money on the land, which I didn't have. I spent quite a bit of money on the building, which I didn't have. But we had a large quote that we were pretty much going to be getting guaranteed to get that job, which would really help out. And we didn't get that job. That one hurt. But you know what? It's just like you peel back that bottle cap again, right? It says try again. So another one happened. I was in Hawaii with my kids, and I had worked really hard on a project for 40 gearboxes, which was worth a lot of money and a lot of employment. We would have put a lot of staff into our company, which we would have had a lot more staff in our company. I was in Germany. I negotiated the deal. I kept my phone off because back then the data rates were crazy. So when I got off the plane in San Francisco, I turned the data on. Actually, that bill was like $1,500. I found out that the Germans had decided that they didn't want to use us. They wanted to use their own German company. And it was a really dark moment for me there. It's just like I was just so upset. But I peeled back that cap, that bottle cap. I went to the president of the Potash Corp, and I told him this isn't right. I said, we're a Saskatchewan company. We're employing Saskatchewan people. And I got the order back for 40 gearboxes. So, yeah. So those are the business ones. Definitely had some personal ones too. So, but thanks for the question.
Hey, Greg.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
There we go. My name's JD. I'm an international student. I'm from Ecuador. And I just had to ask that in '99 you mentioned that you had a question of owning the business. And so in our personal lives, we constantly reach for our why, right? How and what was your why to essentially keep on owning the business and to expand it further through that challenging situation?
I saw the opportunities. Like I was able to. My parents were lucky enough to allow me to travel on sales and also learn. I was on the board of directors for the American Gear Manufacturers Association, which I mentioned we're in the top 5 percentile for profit in that company, that association. So I was able to travel around the world, and I could just see that we had potential in Saskatoon. We all talk about the work environment that we have in Saskatchewan, and it is true. We have the work environment in Saskatchewan. But I just saw the opportunity for us, and I also, I had that vision. I just wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best gear company, not the biggest gear company, and not the best in what we did. It was custom manufacturing. There's a lot of gear companies out there that build gearboxes that are they come off assembly line. That wasn't us. So I just had that vision that I wanted to pursue. And like I said, I bought a piece of land. I didn't even have the money for it. I built a building. I didn't have the money for it. But I had a vision and I had a desire of what I wanted. And it was just kept going on it.
Would you say you would have been successful, you wouldn't have a passion for it?
I would never have been successful if I didn't have the passion for it. Not a hope. You have to have a passion for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good questions. Thanks.
Hey, Greg.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, so something that I'm really curious about is your support network. So, I mean, doing what you've done is incredible, but I know that it's pretty much impossible to do alone. So I'm curious about what your support network looks like, who the people are in your life that have supported you through the tough times, what kind of network you need in the business world to have done what you've done.
Very good question. The first of all, I'm going to tell you though, an entrepreneurial life is very lonely. It can be very, very lonely. But we do have friends, and I'd have to admit, and one of my best friends now, when I sold my company in 2013 and we started kind of hanging around again, like he said, Greg, where have you been? And I said, Mike, I let things fall, I let my friendships fall to the side because I was so focused on my business. And so it was either this for me. I'm not saying this is not right, but it was either the business or my friends, and I just focused on the business as much as I could. But I was involved with YEO, so Young Entrepreneurs Organization here in Saskatoon, which is now called EO. I was also part of the Strategic Coach program out of Vancouver, which is a program of similar-minded entrepreneurs that we would get together every quarter, and we would actually keep ourselves on task of what we did and what we didn't do. Family is a big support. You know, it's a huge support for me. And then I think also just talking to other entrepreneurs about certain things. It's really interesting when you do get together with a group of guys, you might even know who they are, and you talk about the issues that you have. They're going, because they've got the same issues. They might be bigger, they might be smaller, but they're the same issues. So I would make sure you get involved with, with the YEO if you can. If not, there's other organizations. Can't remember that there's the Young Professionals that have a group here in Saskatoon too. So it's definitely a group of like-minded people. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. Makes sense.
Yeah. Thanks. Good questions.
Thanks for your speech, Greg. I was just going to ask, I hope everyone in the room heard your story about entrepreneurial spirit, because we have a group of young entrepreneurs joining us today, and the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. It can be lonely, lots of risk and success. I wondered when you started talking about franchise, it seemed like you were talking about, this is my business and now I'm going to be a family man and set my kids up, but you're like starting to do a franchise, which is a pretty cool thing. So what kind of made you want to do a franchise? Because we all know McDonald's started just one store and is now a franchise. That's what everybody thinks. But to start a franchise seems fairly ambitious. So maybe tell us a little bit more about how that went or how it's going. I've always wanted to try something different, and that's probably why I ventured in 2015 into that other venture that we failed at. But I always wanted to try something different, and that's why I probably sold when I was 47 years old, my first company, and that's just way too young. So I wanted to try something different. And, you sound like my dad. He asked me the same question, like, why did you do that? Because I wanted to try something different. And like I said, I did, when we started out Saskatoon Custom Garage Interiors, it's hard going to Regina and say, hi, I'm from Saskatoon, can I help you out with your garage, right? It's kind of like CRA coming to your house, right, and saying, can I help you with your taxes? So I had a couple different options. I could have gone to dealerships. I could have owned them all, which would have ate up a lot of capital, and I didn't want to spend that much money on it. So I looked at the franchising opportunity. I searched, once again, I am one to read and try and investigate stuff, and quite sometimes maybe, I wouldn't say I delve into it too much, but quite a bit, and decided to hire a company out of Chicago called iFranchise, who was the world leader the last 3 years, maybe 4 years now, in creating franchise systems. And so I hired them, and they created everything for us. We did the strategic plan with them to start off with. We did the competitive analysis to start off with, and then we got an idea where our royalty fees should be at, what type of things we should be charging for, what type of things, how our organization should look. And then I wanted to make it, how could we differentiate it from everybody else? That's important, very, very important to me. Very important to anybody here. You got to differentiate your product from your competitors. And I think we've done that. But now and the other thing for me that's brand new, and that's why my daughter Tate is able to help out quite a bit, is the social media stuff for me is,
I'm 58 now, and this social media stuff is way, way different than what I used to do. Like I said, I used to go and shake a guy's hand, and we used to do a deal that way. Now it's trying to find customers through social medias and hit ratios and stuff like that. It's a lot different for me. So that type of stuff is new, and that's why I've done this with the franchising is something different.
Well, I think just some of the entrepreneurs in this room might have something unique
Mhm.
that they can scale up to in a franchise way, that other people start to sell your product because it's good, and then everybody can sell your product for you.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
franchise is a kind of cool idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for the question. I get paid by how many questions you guys ask, so please ask one more. Go ahead. Got one more up there, everybody.
Oh, sorry. I just want to know
Yeah.
how you came up with the name Autobox.
Because
I love it.
It's a great name. We actually hired a firm out of Saskatoon. Tate, who's that one? Yeah, Rock and Bloom. We hired out of Saskatoon. And Heather and David, they did a great job for us. They came up with 5 different names. They gave them to us on a Thursday or something like that, and I remember going through them, and Autobox was my 3rd pick. And by Sunday night, Autobox was my 1st pick, and I thought, that's neat. You know, to me, it's almost like a Home Depot name. And that's, we're called, our name is Autobox Garage Interiors, Inc., but people are starting to call us Autobox, and that's what I want to be branded as, Autobox. It's just that simple. So, yeah. And actually, an Autobox in Italian means a car in a box, car in a garage. So perfect.
Thank you, Eric, for your presentation and sharing the ups and downs of your business with us. I have 2 questions. The first one is about the impact of COVID and pandemic on your business, because you see, I would say, opportunity in any risk. It was the case in COVID, or what was like the strategies that you tried to deal with COVID and like pandemic? The second question is on behalf of my students. Assume that you're gonna hire someone for a position and you have 20, 30, 50 applicants. What are the main qualifications and criteria that you're looking for among different applicants?
For a
If you go-
franchise or for an employee?
For employee.
For employees.
You're gonna hire, for instance, you have opening and then there are like 50 applicants. What are like those qualifications that you're looking for when it comes to hiring?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. When I had Standard Machine, when we went from 35 to 70 staff, we hired you because you breathed. Seriously. That's why we had 2 attempts by unions to come into our business, which we didn't want, because we didn't have the right people in there. So I think it's really, really important when you hire somebody is they fit your values and your culture. So we moved to a high performance type of hiring way, that we were getting more into your background of what made you, okay? What made you tick, and to see if it matched us. And then of course it comes down to, I always tell everybody, it comes down to attitude, it comes down to aptitude, and it comes down to attitude to work for me. So that gives you an idea of what we're looking for. Someone who's capable of doing something, but they got a great attitude to change and do whatever they have to do to get the company to be successful. Answering your first question, COVID, so I bought the company in 2020. Couldn't have been a worse time to buy it. So the one thing that it did is that before, like, we were going up to the doors and ringing the doorbell and shaking, talking to people face to face. We would ring the doorbell, we'd back down their steps 6 feet. Maybe a couple people would say, "What the heck are you guys doing here? It's COVID. I don't want you here." Fine, that's great. But it actually, our business, I wouldn't say it bloomed, but it sure kept steady with we did a lot of people's garages during the year and a half, 2 years of COVID. It's crazy because a lot of people were spending more money on it. Even me personally, like, we would have our friends come over and we would sit in our garage. We'd have them park away at the church 2, 3, or 4 blocks away, so the RSMP wouldn't find out where we were in there. But we sat in their little thing, and my wife would put out 4 couples over there. She had 4 different dishes for them. But those are the type of things that we really enjoyed our garage, and that's what we try to get people to do, is enjoy their garages. Because I'll make my sales pitch. The garage is one of the cheapest places you can actually invest into. This is guys talking to their wives now, to invest into, to actually have a living space. Hope that answers your questions.
That does answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And maybe I could interject with maybe one final question, because I know that we have the opportunity for the Get a Bigger Wagon competition to be celebrated in a minute. I was really impressed, Greg. I've met you a couple times already, but in your remarks, you dropped Husky athletics, playing soccer, like it was like something like, and then you wanted something else. So me, as somebody who wanted to be an athlete, but genetics were not kind to me, how in your life, like you said, playing sports at a very competitive level, did that have any impact in terms of your entrepreneurial journey, the characteristics and the traits that you had to be successful in business?
I've always played team sports. I was never a good golfer like my son here is, but so I've always been involved with team sports, whether it be hockey or soccer mainly. I was pretty small growing up, so when I was 16, I moved away from hockey and I played more soccer, and then I played more at a provincial level, and then had a tryout with a national under 18 team, just one tryout, mind you. But so that type of team. The team environment is very, very important. You know, like I was a captain a few different times, so you're able to kind of lead and help, you know, and see how that works. Not that when you're 13 you're a great leader, but you are, you know, you've got some type of characteristics, I guess, or aspirations for it. So,
well done.
Yeah.
Well, colleagues, friends, thank you very much for your participation, I guess, in the first part of this afternoon's event. Greg, thank you for being Speaker 17, for really giving us the vision of your experience, your pursuit of a family operation. I know each year we decide in terms of a speaker who can bring that lens. We've had people in financial literacy, people who built companies, people whose companies have failed. This time, an opportunity to talk about that family experience of going from first to second to third generation, and your journey has been really impactful for us and our programs today. So thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate your remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.